What is up, guys? Welcome back to Real Bucs Talk. Today, it's Mark only without Pless, and I'm joined together with Josh Capo. I think I'm getting that correctly.
You nailed it, man.
Well, thank you. Goddamn time I got something right. Can't get Gedeke right half the time, but I got that right. So we're blessed to have Josh Capo here today to talk about the Buccaneers' massive upset, I guess, week one, where no one chose them to win against the Vikings, 20-17. Well, I think even Pewter Report even said there was no chance in hell.
No. Only Matt Matera. Only Matt Matera had him picked to lose. The rest of us, it was almost a clean sweep saying, they're going to win this one.
All right. Well, thankfully, right? So let's see how this rolls out, but we're going to go. I'm going to let you take it away. What are your first initial thoughts of this Buccaneer victory? I mean, it was very hard fought. All three phases played well. Or, forgive me, the offense didn't play well early, but they ended up catching fire late. But how'd you feel about that 2017 victory?
So I guess I'll just kind of go through my thought process throughout the game. I don't love play calls where co-keefed is your number one read. And we had two of those in the first two drives. I want to say through the first four drives, co-keefed was out-targeting Chris Godwin and Mike Evans combined. That wasn't the way I would draw it up personally.
That's how they did it, right? It was 13.
Well, hey, if the idea was to catch the defense by surprise, it caught the defense, the fans, anybody with any sense of logic, all by surprise. So I thought Bowles made a bold call in dialing up a ton of blitzes, simulated pressures throughout the game, because Kirk Cousins is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL against the blitz. He has been for 3 or 4 years. His turnover-worthy play percentage goes down against the blitz, which is a very rare feat. But Bowles dialed him up. He called him at the right times. He called the right blitzes. They were getting home on the blitz almost every single time. And it resulted in some big plays early, especially the forced fumble by Antoine Winfield Jr. in the first half. And then late, it really helped to take away Justin Jefferson's effectiveness, which he was very, very effective in the first half. If there were any aspects of the game where the Bucs maybe were, I would say, not so great, it was one that we probably all didn't expect, which would be the secondary. I thought the secondary, just the back seven in general, it left a little bit to be desired. And I'm not going to put it on the linebackers because I think Levante David and Devin White were put into some pretty tough spots, and they did really well. Speaking of Devin White, elite game. Elite. Dude was everywhere. Him and David were phenomenal at the line of scrimmage and really, really solid in coverage given the circumstances they were put in. I love some of the play calls that Canales drew up throughout the game. I thought overall he called a pretty solid game, especially for it being his first. And I think that there's a lot that the team can build on. So offensive line blocked really well in pass pro. So a lot of good stuff.
You believe that? A majority of people think we have the worst O-line ever. But then you look at no lie, you hear about
I know.
Some of the worst offensive line play ever you'll see. And then look at
I think there were legitimate questions. There are legitimate questions at every single spot. And some of it, Robert Hainsey did not have a great game. He was definitely the weak spot on that line. But there was a lot of potential with that line. I think that's the one thing that people underrated was everybody looked at, worst case scenario, this bad. And they're not wrong. But nobody talked about best case scenario. And the truth, of course, lies somewhere in between.
Same thing with our record. Everyone thinks 3 and what was it? 3-14?
3-14?
Yes. So we only got 2 more left, right? So spread it out.
See, now this is where you can hate on me because my season prediction for the record is probably something that you're like blasphemy. I put them at 6-11.
Okay, no, it's not bad. Anything 6-8, I think, is reasonable.
Yeah.
But, my thing is this. Hainsey may have not had the best day, but he did help out with notifying where's the blitz coming from, helping move protection calls. That helped Baker a crap tons, for that way.
Yeah, overall his line calls were really good. He had one bad one where they had a unchecked or unblocked rusher coming off Baker's backside, where you could tell it was a slide call. They protected right, blitz came from the left. I mean, dude just blew right by Tristan, and Tristan was like, "That's not my guy." But other than that, no, he did some really good. And him and Baker were checking a lot. Baker talked about it a little bit in the post game presser that. I think it was the first half, they would check, Minnesota would check, and Minnesota was checking that, knew exactly what check to get into to kind of counteract. But in the second half, they hit some good checks. Actually, the first half, I wrote about this. I think the article came out today. He had a really good check early in the game on a speed out, came back to it. It was the check on the deeper out to Godwin to seal the game. So and a lot of that was Hainsey, hey, we got to pick this up. We got to move to something else.
Yeah. I mean, overall offensive line played good enough, right? Good
Oh,
enough.
absolutely.
And Baker had plenty of time in most cases.
Yep.
Then let's be honest. I loved his grittiness, his little not make you miss, like the make you, where the hell did that come from kind of thing, like where he's almost getting sacked and he just lofts it to Rashad White and he gains like 5, 10, almost 10 yards, almost picks up a first down on that play.
Damn, yeah, that was complete Baker the creator, right? Yeah. I mean, White was a blocker on that play. He was supposed to stay home and pick up any of the blitz, and he did, and just everything fell apart. And kudos, Baker gets a lot of credit for that play, which he absolutely deserves, but Rashad White's got to get a lot of credit because there's no way he knows that's coming. That's just pure athletic reaction time, right? He just reacts to it, grabs it, and says, "Oh, I got to get upfield," and he scoots and boogies, right? So it was a great play.
Yeah, but I like the fact that they started learning to keep the play alive. Don't freaking stop and keep going, because Trey Palmer's touchdown, that was literally a Baker. Okay, things can happen. Just keep going with it. And I think Plus was at the game, and he was like, "I don't know why he waited so long." I'm like, Baker had a guy right in his face. He was waiting for him to get into a lane to throw to. That's the only reason why he had to hold on to the ball. But, I mean, overall, it started slow, but it's not how you start, it's how you finish. I mentioned earlier, O'Keefe being targeted twice in the first drive. It can't happen. Like I mentioned that the Plus, that shouldn't be how you draw it up. I don't care if it's like that's what the defense gave me. Come on.
The first one, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, it is a short hitch, right? He was attached, short hitch. He probably wasn't the number one read, but Baker read out the blitz and said he's going to be open. He just dropped the damn ball. The second one seemed like that was a play drawn up for the tight end on a deep route, which is fine if that's Cade Otton or David Wells. Maybe even Payne Durham. I don't know if he's got the wheels for it, but I mean, if O'Keefe can get down there, I guess Payne can too. But that shouldn't be O'Keefe running a vertical like that. It just shouldn't be him like that. That seems a little counterintuitive to me.
Yeah, well, either way, we won the game. So, O'Keefe, and also there's something you wanted to touch on. So, a touchdown that could have been to O'Keefe, that was a little high by Baker.
Yeah, wide
the hell open. Just misses it off fingertips. Okay, Baker needs to hit that. He's wide the hell open. Just get it to his chest plate, right? But
I mean,
it hits your hands. I know he's not a good hands.
It's on both. Yeah, it's equal share, right? The pass should have been an easier pass to catch for Co. So Baker shares blame. And that was not the only one, right? Like Baker had a solid game. I'm not going to say it was fantastic. I think
at all. Right?
From an emotional standpoint, endearing himself to teammates and fans, it was a phenomenal game, right? Like we're out here calling quarterback options with stiff arms, full Heisman in effect, right? Lowering the shoulder, diving for first downs. Like that's the shit. Like as a player, like as a dude, you're like, I want to play with that guy. Like if he's going to put it on the line, I'm going to put it on the line. Right. That's fantastic. But when you go back and you look at like what makes a great quarterback, there was definitely one aspect of quarterbacking, and this has been part of Baker's MO for his entire career, and a valid part of his MO, he's not the most accurate quarterback. And by that, I mean like hitting like exactly where the ball should be within the when considering where the receiver is in relation to the DB, right? Or just in general, putting it in an easy place to catch. He didn't put it in a great place for Ko to catch. And if you're going to ask Ko to catch the ball, you need to have good ball placement, really good ball placement. But it wasn't just relegated to him, right? So like there were two or three just short passes to Evans where thank God Evans has got, the big catch radius that he does, the long levers that he does, because he's 6'5" and he's putting his hands all the way up to catch these balls. He's just not super accurate. Okay. You can still be a good quarterback without being super accurate, but that's who Baker is. He's not super accurate.
What's nuts though is his accuracy gets better with the harder throws. Like
it can
move is insane. Like some of even the touchdown to Trey Palmer, that was a hard throw to make, but it was extremely accurate.
Sure. The speed outs.
Perfectly accurate. And you just want to let's get a middleman. Let's find something where it is just enough. I mean, and how many times did yes, it'll go down as an incompletion and inaccurate, but the one that the guy just tipped to Tompkins ends up hitting him in the face.
I don't blame that one on him. You talk about like the high end throws. Like I think probably the most difficult throw of the day he made was the game sealer to Godwin, right? That deep out. It's a full timing route. I want to say 5-step drop off the shotgun, and he's got to put every ounce of power he's got behind it to make sure that it doesn't get undercut by the corner. And he puts it right. I mean, one more inch outside that and Godwin can't get to, but Godwin's the only guy who can get it. It was a phenomenal throw. Both the deep balls that ended up incomplete to Evans were in good spots, right? The first one in the first half down the right sideline, Evans should have caught that, in my opinion.
Yeah, one note on that. If it's a 50-50 ball and you're claiming to be a $25 million man, you go up and get that ball. I'm just saying.
I get what you're saying, but you look at the $25 million receivers, they're not $25 million receivers because they're contested catch guys. They're $25 million receivers because they get open a ton.
And they catch the ball.
Well,
and Andrew Hopkins made catch plays like that. He's not going to play like that now, but he made those contested catches.
He did.
Like half the size of Mike Evans.
Yeah. And then even the one down the left sideline, I thought that was a very impressive throw because he ended up going back shoulder on it and gave Evans a chance. And honestly, I thought that was probably DPI.
It was.
and Evans gets that call, 9 times out of 10, and that was the 10th time, right? So, but both were good throws on deep passes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like his sideline throws usually are accurate. That's one thing that I did notice even in college. His sideline throws are accurate. I don't know.
Yeah, he just struggles over the middle.
Yeah, right. Maybe it's the height thing. Maybe it's him trying to push it too hard. But hey, either way, it was good enough to get us a victory. And yeah, the numbers didn't look that big. Let's actually bring it up here. Here we go. So only 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 average on his throws. And that's a credit. That's a credit to what we're talking about with Canales over the offseason. His play call, or the Seattle play call, was just like he said, like a boxing match. Little dink here, little dunk there, little run here. And once they get tired and lazy, then you hit them over the top. The 2-minute drill was just phenomenal based off of Canales' play call and Baker's efficiency with the ball. But the second half, I think, was the true emulation of what this Canales offense is going to be. I think it's going to be hard to maintain that, like that consistent of a drive. It was like almost 10 minutes long.
Yeah, it was 9:03, I think, total. Bucs held the ball for over it was 9 minutes exact. The Bucs held the ball for 20 minutes and 3 seconds in the second half, which is honestly the reason why Jefferson was so ineffectual in the second half. If he's not on the field, he can't hurt you, and that's not a bad strategy. It's hard to emulate. It's hard to make it a process, but it definitely worked in this particular case. He got to play action a lot more in the second half. Let me pull it up real quick, if you don't mind. I charted everything out.
I love it.
I'm pretty sure I tweeted it at like 2:00 in the morning.
What a man. Staying up.
That's
That's Bucs content right there, guys.
Yeah, you try and grind. That's what it is. You try and grind.
Woo! There you go. Get your own little woo on the show.
I like it. I like it.
That's one hell of a way to keep a man off the field, right? Something we never really saw last year again.
Exactly.
3 and out, and you're putting your defense out to dry. Guess what? The defense got the rest. Wow.
Here we go. So first half, he called play action on only 25% of the passes that Baker made. In the second half, that went up to 69%.
Wow. Right. Play action.
So yes, so huge. And I think it was Canales was feeling things out in the first half and trying to figure out that Flores Bengal front and how was he going to come. And you saw through the game, and I think this is kind of an evolution of Flores with the personnel that he has right now. In Miami, when he had the personnel specifically tailored to the defense that he wanted to run, you're getting a ton of blitz calls, right? Yeah. He showed the same front, and it did perplex the Bucs offense a few times in the first half. But then you started noticing he's showing that front, but he's only rushing 4, and a lot of times he was only rushing 3. So you're showing 7 up at the front, and then you're basically dropping those 4 plus the back 4 into, dropping 8. That the Palmer touchdown was on a 3-man rush, right? There was another one where I think Baker ended up taking a sack on only a 3-man rush, but that was on him just holding the ball too long. So
that was the one play where Gedeke did get beat with a long arm pretty bad by Danielle Hunter.
Yeah. Yep. There was one.
Yeah. That was literally the only one, and that was the one sack of the game.
Yep. So, but yeah, I think that Canales kind of figured that out by the late first half and early into the second half. So he started getting his bag a little bit more with the play action, felt comfortable calling it. Credit to Minnesota's defense. Every single naked boot, Baker had somebody in his face, right? Like the backside defenders for the Vikings, full credit to them. They stayed home on those naked boots. They were not chasing the play action, and it made it difficult, but Baker overcame. On at least 3 or 4 passes, he found the shallow cross coming back to his side, tight end on the flat, and he was able to make something happen with it.
And that was probably in their game, like, don't let Baker get outside. That's the number one rule. Do not let him get outside because he will make something happen. And they're not going to trust our running game. So the second we actually do develop a running game, I saw someone saying in there, read this 24, running game needs to get better. I agree. I mean, it wasn't even okay. It was better than crap, but it was consistently run though. That was the thing. There was still an effort where I think the longest run of the game was a 9-yarder. So no one was running the ball well.
So I think there was a lot of people looked at just raw yards per carry, right? Which was not great. I think it was like 3.2 or 3.4 or something like that. The efficiency was better than last year, right? So I think that on I was only tracking first and second down, but I want to say on first and second down run calls, it's still not amazing, but I want to say there were like 35 to 40% of them ended up being efficient. Okay. So for your viewers, do you feel like they know what an efficient run is?
Oh, you got to bring that out.
What's that?
You got to bring that out.
All right. So what we define efficient runs as, or successful runs, if it's on first down, it needs to gain 50% of the yards to go. So typically you're on first and 10. You want a play call that's going to get you 5 yards, right? On second down, you want it to gain 75% of your yards to go. So if you're in second and 8, then a successful run or pass, whatever you call, needs to gain at least 6 yards. Then obviously third and fourth down, you're looking to get 100% of the yards to go. Mm-hmm. So in a lot of those situations, they were calling run calls on like second and 4, second and 2. Well, on second and 2, you really only need to gain 2 yards for it to be a successful run. You've reset your downs. So while the raw yards per carry wasn't great, and there's still a lot to be desired to the commenters' point, the bones are there for a good running game. There were a lot of holes that the offensive line created. Hainsey, Mock, Weiler.
Going.
What's that?
Mock was going. Even though he had spasms, he was going.
Oh, there was one where he ends up chasing a Minnesota defender like 8 yards behind the line of scrimmage, like on a full twist. I was like, this man doesn't have back problems.
Right.
Kidding me. Gedeke was drove Danielle Hunter, I want to say straight to Texas. I mean, they went on a road trip together on a couple of plays. So you had 3 out of the 5 linemen who had really solid run blocking games from what I've seen so far. And I haven't dove fully into the all 22, but from, I want to say, a second and third look off TV copy, I was pretty pleasantly surprised. Wirfs has never been like a dominant run blocker.
Yeah.
He seems just so much more comfortable. He likes going backwards and anchoring and just saying, you're not getting past me, rather than driving forward. And then we already acknowledged Hainsey had a tough night. But the run game was mostly stymied by poor blocking from tight ends.
Yeah.
And
either.
Yeah, and then Rashad missed some holes. He missed some reads on a lot of inside zone stuff.
Probably, again, like you were saying, like all the guys on the line, he's assuming something and all of a sudden sees something else.
Yep.
So, I mean, Brian Flores, give him credit. Like he literally brought everything to the table in that one game. So I think their defense is going to be a lot better than it was last year. And I saw some Vikings fans thinking that they just gave it away. I think it was just a really good game. They both were ready, and we just came away with less mistakes. And
that's the big one, right? Yeah. You take some of the luck stuff out, and Minnesota's probably more deserving of the win. They had more explosive plays, right? They were more consistent on offense. The Bucs had the great equalizer, though, which was turnovers. 3 turnovers. Chris Izzian stole the ball out of the end zone, like straight up, 1 inch to go, and he's like, "That's mine, right? Give that back." That play had 2 of the coolest things I saw on Sunday. That strip, and then Justin Jefferson just laying the boom, saying, "Hey, Travis Hunter over in Colorado, I got you. I'm going to go play safety now."
It looked like it almost hurt Justin Jefferson to hit him that hard, too.
It might have. It hurt me to watch it.
He popped right back up like it didn't even happen. I go, what the fuck?
Yeah. That was something, man. That was both sides of that play were just like, whoa.
That hurt me. But before we move over to the defense, a couple more things on the running game I wanted to ask. What did you think of that run I think it was inside of our 30. It was a 3rd and 5, and they run towards Tristan Wirfs' side. They pulled him. Kate Otton blocked down.
They ran shotgun power. Yeah.
What'd you think of that call?
I thought it was a really unique call. I don't think anybody saw it coming. If I remember it correctly, Otton initially got his block but couldn't sustain it, and Harrison Smith came down like a freight train and kind of blew the whole thing up. But I would say if Otton holds that block, Rashad can duck Smith and he's off to the races. So I thought it was a unique play call. You want to put some of that on tape early in the season because it'll help keep defenses honest later on. So I thought it was a unique wrinkle.
Yeah. I mean, who the hell would have guessed that? I thought it was a cool call if you get it, and it could have been a massive gainer. But I mean, either way, Kate Otton later in the season be like, okay, I need to seal that, because if he does, that's a big gainer.
Yeah, he had a rough game. He had one of the poorer games on offense.
Yeah. Like the catch that was almost a fumble, then it goes down as an incompletion. Yep. So his blocking wasn't there, and he's usually a sound blocker. So I don't know what happened there.
From what I saw last year, he's much more comfortable blocking on the move rather than from a stationary point. So, and that was one of the things that I was hoping to see a little bit more of from Canales. And you see it from a lot of guys from that mid-zone, wide-zone tree. Mike McDaniel does it better than anybody else. But it's not just motion, right? But it's motion at the snap. Guys already moving, right? It's not motion to stop. It's motion through the snap. And I'm hoping that as he evolves as a play caller, you're going to see more of that. Because he did call motion on 39% of their first and second down plays yesterday. So that's a good number. It's certainly an increase from what Bucs fans were used to last year.
Everything's going to be an increase. I don't think you understood how much of a pain I had for Leftwich in his offense last year when we had John. But, yeah, this is my answer.
As somebody who had to cover him, yeah, no, I know exactly what the pain is. So when one of my best friends in this business asks a legitimate question about analytics, and dude laughs at him and then says, that's a fantasy football question.
Bullshit.
I take that very personally myself.
Yeah.
JC Allen's a damn fine reporter.
Yeah. And he was the laughing stock. I think I take every possible chance. I told Plus I need to stop doing it, though, to literally say how every point is a slap to his face. Like Todd Bowles mentioning, oh, well, I trust this guy to make a call, make a play. He didn't trust Leftwich jack shit. He just didn't. He didn't, because I didn't trust him. No one trusted him. I mean, he couldn't get one damn yard. I mean, no, go ahead.
I remember before the Rams game last year. I try and study film as much as I can, right? And I don't do it nearly as much as I would like to. I have a full-time job. I've got a full-time family.
Yep. I
do try and get some sleep from time to time.
Those kids,
they keep you going. But I'm sitting there like second and medium. We're throwing bubble screens almost like way too often, right? The Bucs are throwing way too many second and medium bubble screens. I'm sitting here identifying this as Joe F and Schmo, right? I'm pretty sure NFL teams are going to pick this one up, right? And I write about it. 2 days later, they play that Rams game, and Leonard Floyd almost housed it because he dropped second and medium, drops off the edge. I think it was Floyd. I can't remember. It might have been one of their backup edge rushers. And he drops out and came that close to grabbing a bubble screen and taking it to the house. Now, I will give some credit to Lefty, because the very next week against Baltimore, they ran a fake bubble screen and then end up hitting, I think it was Otten. I could be wrong on that.
That was not Leftwich. That was Brady. I'm not going to give any credit.
I think that was by design. I'll give it to Lefty. You don't have to say he was a genius, but he can get something right? So credit to him there, but there just wasn't enough of that. There was way more of the former last year, and it definitely was the underlying root cause of their offensive struggles, in my opinion.
Oh, no, it was. Not your opinion, it was. You're on Real Bucs Talk. We keep it real. It was him. Now let's move on. Let's go over to the receivers before we go over to the defense. Mike Evans dropping the slant that should have, could have been a touchdown. We talked about his drop of the deep 50-50 ball against a rookie. I thought he should have had it.
Yeah.
And then the DPI that should have been his day could have been a lot bigger. Mm-hmm. So yes, for a guy that's in a contract year, could have been huge. He still got targeted 10 times, mainly in the second half, but the whole receiving group, how'd you feel?
So I think Evans, I would say he had a poor game, even though he had the 6 catches, 66 yards. I want to say a touchdown. I look back. I was charged on a Pewter Report. I do need to plug them once at least.
Go ahead.
PewterReport.com, where you can get some great Bucs coverage. I was charged with doing our most disappointing list.
Prove this message.
Thank you. And I'm never a big fan of doing like these instant reaction, who did well, who didn't, because I love diving back in, right? And if I could do it all over again, I would have pulled Luke Gedeke off of the most disappointing list, which I put him on for the second time. And for the second time, I'm probably going to have to do a mea culpa. And I probably would have replaced him with Evans, right? Because for the expectations you have to have for Evans, for the expectations he probably has for himself, and those are high, and they should be. That was a disappointing game, right? It could have been so much more. It could have been 2 touchdowns. It could have been 12 catches. It could have been probably 130 yards, right? Not 12 catches, 8 catches. So Godwin, I thought, had a great game. Made some fantastic catches. That was a big time catch to seal the game. Like, I can't say enough about that play. That's why I wrote about it. I thought it was really cool. I would have liked to have seen Palmer challenge the Vikings secondary deep a little bit more. Try and isolate him on Byron Murphy and just let him go vertical and give him that opportunity. I mean, they didn't get into a lot of packages with Raheem Jarrett. If we were adding the tight ends in there, again, Kate Otten had a disappointing day. So the Bucs offense was able to do just enough with the two big guys doing just enough. Godwin having a good game, Evans having a little bit of a disappointing game, but overcoming with volume.
What I thought was cool is Godwin pretty much got the first big catch from Baker that started that drive to get us an eventual touchdown. And then he seals it with the ending catch. Like, I think he's just building that trust with Godwin. Like you were saying with the accuracies, that was the first conversion that got us in that 2-minute drill was in the middle of the field, like right on the seam. So, and that was one where he had to kind of turn to catch the ball. It wasn't the most accurate that we mentioned, but Godwin, his catch radius is unreal. And if it's in the air, he is one of those guys that's 50-50. He's going after it.
Yeah, Godwin's one of the best contested catch guys in the NFL. He's gotten a little bit of a reputation since like 2021. I want to say in the playoffs he had some drops, and then 2022 he had a few more, and so he's gotten a little bit of this reputation for drops. But if you look at the balance of his career, he's one of the best contested catch guys in the NFL.
No doubt. But I think that's what Baker, like during the training camp where everyone's like, oh, God, he's not going to win because he's throwing interceptions. I think those are the things he was feeling out. Like, who's going to win that contested catch thing, right?
Dude, right there with you. I was telling the same thing. I was like, if they evaluate Baker on his camp interceptions, that is the stupidest thing in the world because he's just figuring shit out. What can I do? What can't I do? Yes, I'm 100% with you on that.
Like, if you don't get your boxer's dirty during practice, what the hell's going on? I mean, I was trying to say something else, but I keep it clean. Attempting PG on YouTube.
There you go.
But I mean, it is what it is, and I think he felt that out during training camp, preseason, and now he knows who he can throw these balls up to, and this is how he is. I mean, people thought he was going to throw interceptions left and right. I was amazed that he didn't actually. Like some of the times where he got rattled, he would throw it away. Or the time that he ate it, or just even, well, then again, that he almost rushed it and Todd Bowles took a timeout. Like that could have been.
That was a great call by Bowles. I will give them that. Yeah, the best way I can qualify this Baker performance is, and you feel not a big fan of the guy myself, but you feel for him because you never want injuries. Like this is a very Aaron Rodgers-like performance, right? So he refused to make bad decisions throwing the ball, which led to a couple of bad decisions holding the ball, right? So he only took the one sack, but definitely the time to throw was maybe a little bit higher than you'd like. A couple of plays, you're like, just get rid of it, like a little bit earlier in terms of the decision making. But it was a solid performance. So I'm gonna say it was like an 80 PFF grade. You get that all year long, you're gonna be a top 10 quarterback, and that is his ceiling. Top 10, maybe top 8. I don't think he ever enters the conversation for elite because of his middle of the field issues and because he's always going to be a guy who holds on the ball a little bit more, takes a few extra sacks. But you know, top 8 to 10 quarterback on the Bucs with a little bit of injury luck, that's a divisional round appearance in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and especially with which I'll move over towards with the defense like we have, you don't necessarily need elite quarterback play. I mean, look where the San Francisco 49ers are every year. It's not like they have a Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, a Drew Brees. It's not like they're elite. They just know how to work the system. Don't compare Brock Purdy to that. Don't do it.
I'm not comparing Purdy. I'm comparing the Bucs to the 49ers. That's like comparing apples to spaceships.
Oh, no. I was mentioning just like a defense. If your defense is that good,
I still don't be elite. I don't think the two are close to the same. I think the 49ers defense is in another echelon. Like you talk about the elite defenses in the NFL, and this is where it comes down to the big difference, right? There's some potential in terms of the Bucs pass rush when we're talking about like getting home with 4.
Yeah.
But the 49ers, the Jets, the Steelers, the Eagles, like to me, there's your top 4. And the big difference is those 4 can get home with 4 consistently, and they'll go 8 deep, right? The Bucs aren't there yet. The Bucs have Vita Vea, who is legitimately like a top 12 to 15 pass rushing defensive tackle.
At 350.
At 350. Yeah, I mean, you add in his run stuffing, he's a top 8 D tackle. But when we're talking about just his pass rushing abilities, I'd say he's more 10 to 15. You have JTS, who is a competent number 2,
Yep.
as much as Bucs fans will hate to hear anything remotely positive, and I will stay on this bandwagon. And then you have Shaq Barrett. You don't know what you're getting with Shaq coming back from the injury. And then you've got some potential with Yaya, and Cansey looked great for the 12 snaps that he was out there.
To stay healthy, guy.
But you can't put them on the same level as the 49ers, right? And the one thing, I mentioned it at the top, as good as the players are, the Bucs secondary had a real tough time in that game, right? Especially first half. Second half, there were some, I want to say he went to cover 4 a lot more. He was just like, we're not getting beat over the top anymore.
Yeah.
We're going to keep everything in front of us. And it was a smart call because the Bucs were tackling in space really well.
Yeah.
I think there was one bad play in terms of tackling in space. That was Izzian at the goal line, gave up the touchdown.
That was a hell of a play. I told Ples, that was a hell of a play by the running back, though.
Yeah, but
how does he stay up? I don't know.
He balanced that with that awesome tackle of Jordan Addison on like 3rd and 2 early in the game.
Yeah.
Right? Like open field, all by himself, brings Addison down, kills the drive, right? You add that to the interception. Kid had a baller opening performance, right? Set the bar real high. But just beyond him, Devin White, who we haven't talked about nearly enough yet on the show, because he had probably the game of his life. Levante David. Everybody was tackling really well.
Yeah.
And so Bowles sees that in this, at halftime. This was an adjustment he made. He goes, all right, if we're tackling really well, we just need to stop letting them get behind us.
Yep.
So he pulled off of some of the really exotic blitz calls. The first Jefferson big catch, I think it went for 46 yards. He ran a double corner blitz, right? He brought Dean and Davis off the backside into a play action, and Minnesota, to their credit, the tight end came around on a split block and took out Davis. The running back comes off the play action and blocks out Dean, gives Cousins all the time to turn around and go, I've got Justin Jefferson screaming downfield on a vertical with Levante David turned the wrong direction underneath. Antoine Winfield completely leveraged out of his mind over the top. This is easy pickings, right? And he nailed it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, a lot of people get so mad at Todd Bowles or certain players. He just asks his players to do so much, where sometimes, like you're almost putting them in a bad position, but it's just a hard play that to be that accurate down the field. Yes, it looks wide the hell open, but from the quarterback's eyes, over the line, over the linebackers, between that space, it's a lot harder to hit than you think, even though it is wide open when you see it on like an all 22. And it's a lot harder to hit, especially when you got guys you have to think, holy shit, I have to think about 2 corners coming to my sides, right?
Well, there's a reason Kirk Cousins gets like $35 million a year.
Yeah, right.
That's a good reason. He's worth it.
And that was another thing where I saw many Vikings shows saying like, oh, we got Brian Flores, we're going to just confuse Baker and everything. I go, Baker sees this all day in training camp. Like, Todd Bowles is a mind freak when it comes to defensive alignments, defensive blitzes, like everything. So it's not like it's anything crazy. It's more Canales adapting to it on the fly. That was the only concern I had. Yep. And once he adapted to it, they started looking better.
Yeah, all the things Bowles asks of his defense, except letting anybody carry the scene. That's the one thing he doesn't ask anybody to do, and every year he gets burned on it every once in a while.
I mean, but I love Devin White downhill. I don't love him backpedaling. That's the only area where I don't see him ever truly growing into an elite linebacker.
You let him run the pipe in a Tampa 2, he's great. But he doesn't have the feel for cover 3 hooks. He doesn't know how to pass. Well, yesterday he did pretty good. But in general, over the course of his career, just passing off hooks or passing off route combinations on hook zones, knowing when to follow the man, when to stay at home. Quarterbacks they get him out of position all the time with their eyes. But you ask him to run the middle on a country Tampa 2, He's really good about that. He's got the speed to get that depth, which allows the safeties to play wider. They can play further to the sidelines and give more to those corner routes.
Yeah, but I mean, let's see. I mean, this is another contract year where he's going to want to ball out. He was saying how he's studying a lot more. Let's see. Maybe he will prove it. But either way, let's talk about the good things he did do. Literally anyone he touched was going down. I feel like he hurt himself on one of the tackles because he is a guy that's been known to tackle a little high. Literally wrapped around him like a damn alligator. Falls down. I feel like he landed on the guy's heel on his hip or something, almost hurt himself. But then shrugs that off and literally goes off for what? 8 solo tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 12 total tackles. Guy was all over the place. And then David, 8 tackles, 6 solos. Let's bring this up so people can see it instead of hearing me talk about it. There you go. And 2 tackles for loss. So like these 2 middle linebackers were all over the place when it came to getting numbers. I'll let you touch on that a little bit more.
Yeah. So, I mean, they were fantastic at the line of scrimmage, right? So they got in the backfield. You see the 3 tackles for the loss. They were a critical part of the blitzing package for the Bucs, especially White. White had 3 pressures per Pro Football Focus. I want to say David might have had 3 as well. They were fantastic in terms of filling gaps, them and Vita Vea. Just phenomenal in terms of that run defense, right? I want to say Golston did a really good stout job on the line as well, as did Greg Gaines to a certain degree. Logan Hall got a call out for a good tackle, maybe for a loss early in the game, but then got washed out from much of the rest of the game, put on his ass. But those linebackers were fitting their run gaps. They were flying to the ball. They were gang tackling. Like those 2 guys lit that game up. Yeah. And hats off to the Bucs linebackers. White led the way, and kudos to him for it.
And that's the only thing. Everyone just wants that consistently. Is when he plays like that, you're like, this is one of the best linebackers in the game. And then you have like the Baltimore game from last year, and you're like, this guy doesn't even want to be here. What the hell's going on? It's just the consistent effort. That's what gets you dollars, and that's what's going to get you to where we need to be on the defense, the defensive side. I mean, you're the leader, literally the leader of almost an entire team right now at his youthful age. Baker's the newcomer. So I think he's literally saying, okay, whoever's going to tell me I can go, I'm going to go. But everyone looks at the quarterback. I think Devin White truly is the leader on this team right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the personality for it. Fans can't stand him because they look at him from a team perspective, right? This guy's asking for all this money, and everything that we know from what we've seen and what we've heard from analysts is that he's not worth it. And he thinks he's worth it to the point that he is trying to do what's best for him in securing his long-term future. And what's best for him is not good for my team. And so therefore they kind of shit on him. But you look at his teammates, they all love being around him. He has a magnetic personality. I've been around the dude. Like, he is just that guy people are drawn to. Like, he's fun loving, and he works his ass off. Like, legitimately, he does. Right?
I mean, just look at the guy.
Oh yeah.
Gosh. How are you that big and that fast? It's not
absolutely. The dude did in like the off season. He did like a fastest man competition with like, I don't think Tyreek was a part of it, but you had some dudes out there doing these times. And like he finished 3rd. It was like a bunch of wide receivers and a running back and linebacker Devin White. And dude finishes 3rd out of like 5. And he's legitimately like, he has all the physical tools. Just does he have that feel for the game?
All right. I got to add. Serious note. I think Bucs start 4-0.
Yeah. Serious note. Plus there's a few in.
Yeah. Just a few. Still riding that high from yesterday.
He's in a great part of the country. Like, I've been to the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. It is so cool. I can't wait to get back out there. Amazing food and drink, and just the area is awesome. So hats off to Plus for being out there. I hope he's enjoying it.
The sun treats him better there than here. Plus is what we call clear. So if he sees the sun at all, it hurts.
Oh man,
he gets it a lot over here. But
see, I'm lucky. I do have some Italian and Hispanic genes in me, so the sun is fine with me.
Right, like I just told opposite of me. I go out there, I turn a nice shade. He turns like beet red, looks like a lobster. It's bad.
That's like
every game. Oof, it looks bad on him the next day.
Ooh.
I'm high on beer, he says. All right, well, let's keep going. So defensive line, I heard you said about Logan Hall, but I do want to bring this guy up.
I
just want to bring this little face right here. Anthony freaking Nelson with 3 pressures and 75.8 rush grade. Let's go. Tell me a little bit about this with some eyebrow tweaking.
Anthony Nelson. Yeah. So, all right. So for those Real Bucs Talk viewers who are not familiar with my stances on the Bucs defensive line, I am a Joe Tryon-Shoyinka truther. Okay. I believe that process over results, and process, and in time you'll get the results. JTS has consistently improved his pressure rate every year he's been in the NFL, and his pressure rate was commensurate with like a high to mid range number 2 edge rusher, which is pretty good for a guy taken late in the first round after being out of football for a complete year. And his first year, Bowles was lining him up everywhere. He just wasn't able to focus on being an edge rusher. Yeah. Hell, yesterday they dropped JTS. I want to say like 35 to 40% of his snaps he was dropping into coverage. Yeah. Just let the guy flip and rush the passer, right? Meanwhile, Anthony Nelson last year had like one of the worst pressure rates by an edge rusher in all of the NFL. He was basically a starting outside linebacker for almost the entire season. He had 15 pressures. That's less than 1 a game. He had the most insane pressure to sack ratio in like the NFL. 15 pressures still pulls off like 6 sacks. Okay. It's unsustainable. I've done the research. It will not keep up. All right.
Okay.
So I was vehemently against the Bucs throwing any type of money at him. I would have rather seen that money go to somebody like a Jonathan Grenard or trying to think the guy who went to Cleveland. I think he was with Houston and then may have gone to San Francisco on a trade.
Agbania? That guy?
Yes, Agbania, right? Somebody like that with some real pass rush upside. But no, the Bucs are like, Anthony Nelson's our guy. We're going to give him like $7 million a year or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. And I shit on the deal. Anthony Nelson had himself a fucking game. There is one play, right? So he's an edge rusher. So he shouldn't be going up against interior linemen all that often, guys who can really manhandle. He took Ed Ingram and pulled his ass into the ground and got after Kirk on an inside rush. I was like, I can't believe this man can do this. I don't know if he can believe he can do this. Like, where did this come from? Where was this your first 4 fucking years in the league? I mean, Ed Ingram is not a starting guard. He's masquerading as one right now, but still to pull that off, like that was awesome. Anthony Nelson had probably the best game of the 2022, 2020. Obviously 2023 is only 1 game in. It's best game in 14, 15 months, right? Like it was phenomenal. Hats off to him. So, and I love it when good guys, because Nelly's a good guy.
Yeah.
Prove me wrong when I say they're not good at their jobs. Like it's great. Makes me look like an idiot, and I'm all about that. I love self-deprecation. So I'm an idiot after that game.
Yeah, because what I'll say about him, he's just a safe player. He's not a big splash player.
Yep. High floor.
And do you pay a guy that much just to be safe? That's the iffy thing about it. And does he have anything higher of a ceiling? That's the thing. High floor, but where the hell's your ceiling? Is it the same place as your floor?
Yeah, no, I don't think he has that high of a ceiling, but it's definitely higher than I had it pegged after this game. So I'm excited to see what he can do. Like, where does he go from here? But I didn't see – that was not on my bingo card. That and O'Keefe target machine.
I don't want to see that again. Let's just say that. But overall, like the the defensive line. I did love the rotations. I thought Mike Green was way better, like as a rotational piece that we've had in the past. I feel like there was a lot more from him. Logan Hall, I know he didn't look good majority of the time, but he still had times where he had push or he just stands up too damn much. Stay low. I know you're so tall, but still, like he tries this swim move over the top every time. Like
they know it's coming, Logan.
Right? Like, but hey, like I give him his 1 tackle for loss. Great job with that. But overall, if Cansey can stay healthy, he is disgusting. Like,
Yep.
and he's 12 snaps? I feel like he won at least 4 of those. If you're winning, like, that's a third of the time. I'll take that out of 60 plays if he does play a full game.
Yeah, I mean, you just want him to win on third, right? Yeah. Like, if he just disrupts the passer every other third down, which is a lot to ask of him, but you drafted him 17th overall, right? Or 19th overall, whatever it was. Yeah, that's his skill set, right? So, and the interesting thing with Cansey, it's a complete 180 from JTS and from Logan Hall. JTS and Logan Hall, it's like, these are projects. This is what their physical abilities can be when they're developed, right? Exactly. Right. With Cansey, it's like he's developed. He's already got a very refined and advanced pass rush technique. It's like it's basically like he either hits immediately or most likely it's never going to happen, right? Because there are some serious concerns to his build and whether he can hold up on the interior against 340-pound guys. You hope that with his quickness, his refined approach, his ability to use leverage because of his low frame, that he can overcome that and just do one thing at a really, really high level. Yeah. The really, really early return, 12 snaps, he looks like he can do that. Yeah. And that's an unlock because you put him next to Vita, and now all of a sudden you have something that only like 4 teams in the NFL have, which is legitimate pass rushing dudes on the interior. Everybody's got somebody on the exterior.
Yeah.
Except maybe Chicago. But
it's face them next week.
Yeah. But not many. Again, you go back to San Francisco. They've got 2 guys on the interior. New York Jets, they've got a couple guys on the interior. The Giants, I would add to that. Last night notwithstanding.
40
what's that?
40-0.
Yeah, it was a tough night for a Giants fan. It's been a tough 24 hours for New York City football teams fans because we don't know the severity of that Rodgers injury, but everybody was celebrating that they don't have Zach Wilson behind center, and then all of a sudden they have Zach Wilson behind center. So yeah, it can be promising. Now, flip side of that, as much the Bucs blitzed last night, yesterday, like 55% of the time. Kirk Cousins was only on pressure like 28% of the time. That's a concerning disparity, right? Yep. And when we talk about the issues that they had on the back end, you would hope that doesn't continue considering the investments that you've made in the back end, right? So big contracts to Dean and to Davis, the 2nd round draft pick in Antoine Winfield Jr. Ryan Neal, you got on a discount, but he looked like he had a rough game. You hope that doesn't continue, but if it does, if you don't hit with that blitz, you've left a lot of space open, right? And you're going to get torched. Yeah. So they need that to improve. They need to get home with 4, and they need to be a little bit more selective with their blitzes, or you're going to see a lot of feast or famine. And that's really what yesterday was. There were times when the defense was feasting, and there was times where Justin Jefferson was feasting, right? But there wasn't a whole lot of in between.
But I think that's literally what Todd Bowles was mentioning. It's like, oh, you think he'll just do a rotation with Kalijah Cansey? He's like, he's our 1st round pick, and he's our starter. So we hope to have him on the field. Yeah. I mean, he invested in that because he thinks that's what's going to help him out. We've been saying for so long, if the front 4 can just win, your down lineman can just win consistently, this defense will be elite. But they've never been able to do that recently. They've been having to blitz corners, safeties. Devin White primarily being a blitzer because of that. If these guys can actually play the defense how it's supposed to and not have to send everyone in, then they can be how good we think they can be. But that's the thing. Yancey's health is going to be a massive part of that.
Yep. And that, and then can Bowles fight his inner demons, right? Like his better tendencies. That's just who he is. That's who he is by nature. If you can get home with 4, you don't need to blitz, but then does he just do it anyway?
Well, but a lot of it is like he'll send 4 in. It's not necessarily a blitz, like how Flores does. Like he'll have 7 on the line, and you think you're having 6 coming at you, but really it's just 4 guys going in.
Simulated pressure.
So he does that a lot. It's just, yeah. I mean, if they can show it consistently, they can get in with 4. I think he would calm it down a little bit more. But proof's in the pudding. If they're not doing it yet, I'm not going to sit back and just let the quarterback toast me for chunk after chunk after chunk. I've seen that too many times with Drew Brees.
I just looked it up. So Yancey had 9 snaps. I thought he had 12. Sorry, 9 pass rushing snaps. That's what I should say. He got 2 pressures.
Yeah, 1 hit on the quarterback.
And 5 of those pressures, or 5 of those pass rushing snaps were actually true pass rush snaps, right? Like true pass rush or pass sets. No play action or screen or anything like that where you don't really get a chance. So he got 2 pressures on like 5 true pass sets. Like that's, buddy. Now let's get him on the field 6 times as often.
But yeah, it's health. Let's get the volume. He showed what he can do. Let's just see it in a larger quantity, right? Hopefully against the Bears, who I don't know what the hell happened to them last night or yesterday. But let's see if
the reality of the Bears took over from the narrative of the Bears. That's what happened. They're just not a good team. They're improving. I think they had a good offseason, but they've got a long way to go.
It's like, is Justin Fields a quarterback, or is he a quarterback that can run? I guess also it's the bigger question. But I know I've kept you a little longer than I should have, but I'll let you run with this. Give me your rundown of the secondary, and then I'll let you go.
They were put in tough positions, and they didn't show up. Like you invest that much in the secondary so that you can do the games that Bowles wanted to do. Right. He did the games, and they just didn't. They did not meet the task that was given to them. Ryan Neal, he looked like he was in the wrong position more often than he was in the right position. I think Dean had a tough game overall. Davis was put into some bad spots, and he came up with some big plays. Like he's the one guy I'm like, all right, that was a solid game overall. There was I put out every day after the game, I put out the top 5 and the bottom 5 from offense and defense, PFF grades, right? Yeah. Antoine Winfield made the bottom 5, and people Bucs fans lost their damn minds, right? Like, dude forced a fumble, recovered the fumble, was everywhere in terms of blitzing. And I'm like, yeah, like he had a 90 pass rush grade, but he also only pass rushed like 6 snaps or something like that. Like I can't, what was that? I've got it right here. Nope. That was Anthony Nelson. Pull it back up. Winfield. Like he was elite at pass rushing. He had 4 pass rush snaps. There is a finite number of points you can add to your team or take away from another team in 4 snaps. Mm-hmm. So he's great in that. He was a fantastic tackler, and PFF graded him out as such, 86, which is a really good grade, right? But his coverage grade was 30.1. Part of that coverage grade is because he's the single high safety when you're sending 7 guys. That leaves 4 on the back end, and you're the center fielder, and you got Justin Jefferson screaming at you at 4-4. Like, you're not going to win a lot, and he didn't, and his grade reflected that. So he was in coverage 44 out of 63 snaps. So when you're the thing that you do the most, you are the worst at, your grade is going to reflect that. Like, that's just math, right? Like, so he got a bad game. game grade, but he was impactful, right? The 4 plays that he made as a pass rusher were very impactful. They ended some drives. They had a morale boost to the rest of the team. But the secondary did not meet their billing, is what I would say. Does that mean they're bad and that they're going to be terrible going forward? No. Do I think that they're going to be asked to do what they did that game a lot? No. It was a very bold, like classic Bulls type game. But the second half, when they put them into cover 4, right? They played a ton of cover 4 match, and in the second half, from what I could see from the TV copy, they were a lot better, right? So adjustments were made. They were able to work with the adjustments. The results improved.
I mean, overall, I think Ryan Neal's only going to get better with the communication and everything. They used him a lot on pressures as well.
I loved his tape last year. Like,
oh hell yeah!
I am the, like, if there is a fan club, like, please sign me up to be the president and the CEO and like membership for life. He didn't have a bad game last year, like at all. Like I went and found like his worst graded game. I'm like, all right, let's see this man at the low end. And then at the end I went, all right, let me make sure that what, like, did I accidentally put on his best game? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, he just didn't have a bad game. Oh, he had a bad game.
Right. A lot of it's just what position was he in? Like they've had him going downhill a lot, and they never really manned him on a tight end or anything often. So I think that's where he's best at. Like him covering tight ends is pretty damn good. Bulls just ran a lot of zone blitzes and didn't really put him in that position. Like I saw him downhill a lot. I'll have to see all 22 and what he was doing in coverage, but
yeah,
less than point. I saw him as in just too much downhill playing.
I have a theory. I think in coverage he is. Seattle runs a lot of rip-liz, which there's a match component to it. It's a cover 3 with a match component, whereas Bulls calls a lot of just traditional spot drops.
Yeah,
and I'm wondering if he's much more comfortable. Like, all right, this is a zone coverage, but as soon as this breaks, I've got this guy.
Yeah.
And I think he may just be more comfortable trailing rather than spot drop. And that may be the difference. Because again, second half, better. And second half, they were in match a lot more.
Yeah. I mean, and that's how Todd Bowles likes to call it. And I think, like I said, like with time, he'll probably get better based off of that. I think he's a good learner. I mean, he's an undrafted guy as well, right? And he's just a guy that's proven it with hard work and where he needs to be. Communication's there. I think that busted play that it looked like his fault. Carlton Davis kind of went off to the sideline, and Addison was wide open. Yeah, let's not have that happen again. But they did quick snap, and that's what happens when you're not ready.
Yep.
But other than that and all, I'm not gonna get mad. We won 20-17 in a harsh environment, and we're coming home to play the Bears. Hopefully, it's going to be a victory, but we'll see. You know, we can't get our heads too big and think, oh, we're good now, and then lose to a team that got beat pretty badly yesterday. So, any closing thoughts before I let you go? Because I've probably taken you a little over time, but
it's all right. No, I think we covered a good portion of it. Like, I am genuinely excited to see what pieces the team will be able to say we can build around this go forward, right? Like, there are a lot of established pieces, Vita Vea, someone like obviously Tristan, probably but you've got these rookies and some of these second-year guys, like they've got 13 free rookies, on the 53-man roster. Some of those guys are going to be dudes. Not all of them are. Isian, Malk, Cansey, Servassier, for the few snaps that he got in, he looked pretty solid. Trying to think, is there anybody I'm forgetting in terms of rookies who contribute? Palmer caught a touchdown. Like, they got a lot of contributions from their rookies.
Yeah.
And that's game one. That's a very encouraging sign. So Bucs fans should be excited.
That old Jason Light yet again.
Yep.
Right. But other than that, guys, let me put this in here last second. Ken Smith, thank you so much for the super chat there in honor of a great season. It's a great start to a season. Much love to you as well. Let me give you one of these. Hell of a season start. Hell of a way to start the season. 1-0, tough win, gritty, and now we're gonna come home against the Bears. I'm excited for this. I want to see plus Red Lobster Red and go 2-0 because that's going to be one hell of a Monday Night Football game coming up the next week, which that's not going to look pretty, but I think it'll be fun to watch. Other than that, Josh Capo, let us know where we can see your content, where you're going to be at, and thank you again very much for coming on the show.
Oh, man, I had a blast. Anytime you guys want me on, as long as the schedule permits, I will be here. Love talking ball with you. Love talking ball with Plus. You can find my writing over at pewterreport.com. I've got an article up right now talking about one of the core tenets of Dave Canales' offensive scheme and how it came into play and was beneficial to the Bucs on Sunday. And then on Twitter, it's at Josh_Capo, Queipo, just like on the screen here. And you can get my musings on Twitter. And every once in a while, I'm funny.
There he is. There he is, guys. Go ahead and give him a follow. If that's big enough, go ahead and click on it. But on that, guys, thank you for being part of the show. Thank you again, Josh, for being here and stepping in for Plus, who's probably 6 or 10 beers deep. I don't know what hopefully he knows what his name is. But, guys, thanks for being part of the show. And as always, until the next one.